Hey everyone, it's Lydia here, and I'm here today because I want to share some simple strategies with folks who are struggling to come up with meal ideas, simple, healthy, gut healing meals. Many of my readers, my Facebook fans, and my clients are all on either some type of a limited diet due to food sensitivities or because they are trying to heal their gut. And one of the things I hear often is, I'm running out of ideas, I don't know what to eat, I really want simple solutions, I don't want to have to spend a lot of time in the kitchen, things like that. And I'll be honest with you, I feel the same way. I don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. I don't want to be slaving over my meal, every meal I make and every meal I eat. And I simply don't do that. Uh, Time is precious. We have plenty of other things to be doing, and it's summer, and who wants to be standing in a hot kitchen, right? So I have some simple strategies here for you today based on a meal I created this week. And it was actually a meal that morphed into an entirely new meal, and it was so easy that I just want to share kind of some strategies around how I made that happen. So, number one, anyone who is healing their gut knows that bone broth is an essential component to a gut healing diet, right? So bone broth is like the spackle to your gut, your small intestine, that leaky gut, right? So we want to always be, putting on the spackle to keep those holes from, leaking into our bloodstream and to repair them as well. So bone broth, now in the summer, the idea of eating soup or making broth is not really always the most fun. Some people are using their crock pots, and that's great to make their bone broth, so that's a strategy you can use. And for those of you who don't want to make your own bone broth, you can certainly buy it. And I'll tell you, I'm not making my own bone broth right now. I'm a little busy. So I actually buy it from my farmer's market in the summer because, hey, I go there every week. They've already got it made and it's high quality, and so I save myself a little time and energy there. So always have bone broth on hand. I always have at least a quart of bone broth in my refrigerator so that I can use it at any time I want. So I'll either use it when I'm sauteing, or maybe I'm steaming some veggies, or I make rice with my bone broth. I always have a quart of bone broth ready to go. And in the summer, I don't normally make soups, but lately we've been having some cool weather. So the other morning, I actually made some soup with a quart of bone broth. So that was great. So that's strategy number one, always have bone broth, and find a simple way to make that work for you. Number two, always have frozen veggies on hand. And you're thinking, what? Frozen veggies? It's summer. There's so much great healthy produce. Why on earth would I do that? Well, number one, you probably have an abundance of produce, especially for those of you who maybe have gardens, or you're a member of a CSA, or you're going to the farmer's market and you're getting all this awesome produce. Well, sometimes you can't use it up fast enough. So you might need to just go ahead and freeze it. Well, when you do that, you have a really easy, handy component to a meal, right? Or for those of you who don't have access to a garden or a CSA, or you're growing your own, hey, you know what? The stores have some pretty awesome frozen veggies. And I keep frozen veggies in my freezer at all times. And the reason I do that is because it's easy. And you know what? Frozen veggies are healthy. So don't feel bad about that at all. Frozen veggies are a great asset to a busy life and a healthy life. So have those veggies on hand and have a wide variety of them. I'll just go and grab whatever veggies we like, we tolerate, and I keep, them on hand in my freezer so I can pull them out at any time, especially in those times when I'm not prepared and I haven't planned well and I don't know what's for dinner. So have those frozen veggies on hand. Number three would be to have easy cuts of meat on hand. So what would that be? One is always have some fish. Hopefully you like fish. I know there are people out there that don't like fish, and it's a bummer for you because it's a really powerhouse of nutrient-dense awesomeness, but that's okay. We all have our preferences. But I love to have fish on hand because it's probably the easiest dinner I make is with fish, and it's super fast. Or you could have simple cuts of meat like strips of stir-fry beef, or the same thing with chicken. And it doesn't have to be strips. It could be, just chicken thigh meat pieces or something like that. And you always want to keep that, excuse me, on hand for a quick, simple meal. You could, whip up a stir fry, saute. Another thing would be to have some type of ground meat on hand always, because that can thaw pretty quickly. You can just throw it in a bowl of warm water, and within an hour, it's pretty thawed, and you can whip up a meal. Or you can just pull it out in the morning and always have at least your meat, and you can whip up a meal really fast with ground meat and veggies. I mean, you can do so much with that. So always have an easy cut of meat that's already ready or can be thawed very easily if it was frozen. And then lastly, this is something that some of you may not include just because maybe you're not eating rice, but we eat rice a couple times a week in my house, and whenever I make a batch of rice, I make twice as much as what we need for a given meal. And then that way, because it's easy, it doesn't take me any extra time to do at the moment, and then that way I have like a quart of rice for another meal or something like that. So that's an option there. You could do that with any starch that you are eating or tolerating. So maybe you're doing potatoes, maybe you're doing winter squashes or some yuca or whatever it may be. Always, whenever you make a meal, double batch, something like that, because it reheats very well. And then you could throw it into a soup or a stir fry or whatever. It makes things a lot faster since, starch can take a little while to cook the first time. So those are 4 things that I like to always have on hand, because I can throw together a super easy meal out of those components. So below, I'm going to share a recipe with you, excuse me, that I created this week out of those components. And I had a meal in the morning. It took me 10 minutes flat, and I made enough to have 2 more meals out of it. And my second meal, I added to it a couple of things, made it a whole different meal, and it took me only 10 more minutes that time. And the whole day I kind of ate the same meal twice, but that's okay. We can do that every now and again, right? And it was just so easy. So I hope that this inspires you a little bit to be, not feel like you have to have everything figured out all the time. But if you have a couple strategies in place, you'll be set to pull off a meal at any given time when life gets crazy. So check out that recipe below, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. Bye.